Welcome to Scrollin', a podcast about the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm Ket.
I'm Davius.
This is episode number 41. The listeners will have to, I know they've come to expect pristine audio quality from Scrollin', a podcast about the Elder Scrolls Online. Just going to have to, adapt or die.
Yeah. Rule of BGs.
That's the rule. I said that to the dude that was hate whispering me yesterday.
Adapt or die. Easiest reply to any hate whisper.
And he said, never. That was weird. At first I thought it was a hate whisper, which I guess it kind of was. I mean, he was like trying to make me feel bad about my build or whatever.
Sure.
But I don't know. He wasn't super hateful though. Like when I responded to him and stuff, he was kind of being kind of jokey and stuff. I don't know. I didn't get a super harsh vibe from him.
Best kind of hate whispers there.
Yeah, it's a weird. It's like need a different word than hate. Like I don't know what kind of whisper it was. It wasn't a positive necessarily. But that's when we were playing on Davius and Sally. I would say that these two make a pretty effective pair, wouldn't you?
These two in the past and recently they make a great pair. Maybe more so now than they did in the past.
Oh, no question. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, tell me, did Sally ever get a 61 and 0 kill count in the past? I guess I should remind people what these builds are. So Davius, that's your name, but it's also the name of your main character, Magica Templar, pure healer, right?
That's right.
Bad Sally is my orc stamina dragon knight, and she is an absolute killer. These two have always made a really good pair because Sally has always been very focused on damage, and she's always been very, very squishy, very much a glass cannon, and so she's needed a strong healer so that she can do her thing, and Davius, of course, has always fitted the bill on that.
That's all he does. Throw them heals. I
don't like to boast about kill counts on the show because I don't know, it seems distasteful, but I feel like this one exception has to be made. With Davis's help, like we just said, Bad Sally here got a 61 and 0 kill count. I put a screenshot in the Discord. I mean, absolutely the highest kill count I've ever gotten. I think probably the highest I've ever seen, actually.
Yeah, it's it is the highest I've ever seen for sure. It was especially fun for me because playing on Davius it's a unique playstyle because, as we've talked about in the past, he does 0 damage. He has the Sigic order, whereas light attacks and heavy attacks actually heal allies. So it's just 100% heals, no damage.
It's kind of amazing to see. Like, you look at the numbers at the end of the match and the damage is 0.
But it was such a perfect one because when I pair up with Sally, I just, I'm just kind of hanging out with Sally, just throwing the heals. And I see people dropping, and in that match, I saw all these bodies dropping, but I didn't really think about it. It just seemed like another match of just going around making sure, Sally's health's up. But at the end of the match, it caught me so off guard. It's just seeing that 61 and 0.
You were more flabbergasted than I was, I think.
Oh yeah. I mean, I looked, at the end of the match, I was like, all right, let's see what my heal numbers were. Let's see if, Davis did okay. I was like, all right, that's pretty good. And I looked down and I was like, oh, my first initial thought, I was like, oh, my computer is glitching, or the game's glitching for me right now. Like the numbers don't look right. Like that was, for like half a second, that was what my brain processed that as. I was like, oh, the numbers don't look like, it's not reading right. And then I just sat there and looked, and I was like, oh my, he got 61 kills.
Yeah.
0 deaths.
I want to really quick slide in a couple of caveats here, okay?
Sure.
Number one, this was not a death match. I think it was a crazy king match, and we were 100% ignoring the objective. In fact, I'm pretty sure we got third place and totally lost that match.
I think we did lose. Yeah.
So that's caveat number one. Caveat number two, I'm pretty sure it was a low MMR match. Those people were dying. I mean, Sally packs a ton of damage, make no mistake, but these kids were dying super duper easily.
Yeah, I think that it wasn't that they weren't effective builds or players. Their strategies were, that's what said the low MMR to me, because they kind of kept coming at us in ones and twos.
Yeah, I think it just bears repeating that without a dedicated, essentially pocket healer, like you were straight focused on me, I think most of the time, that absolutely would not be possible, even if it is a bunch of noobs, you know.
Sure.
That build of mine it's really, really squishy, and basically without a healer on her, she trades kills. Like she gets a kill, she also dies almost every time. So.
Yeah, and there's that caveat goes for Davius too, is that the 100% heals, he's got strong heals and he's tanky, but if he's not paired with somebody that can actually deal out some damage, it's just there's nothing he can do. If he gets caught by himself in a match, it's lights out. I mean, he can throw up some heals, but it doesn't work. He has to be with somebody that is really can
that
deal
poses a serious threat.
Yeah.
It works really well because Sally poses a serious threat,
yes,
and if you're keeping me alive, they realize, oh, there's the healer. Let's focus the healer. But you're pretty tough to kill. You're a Nord. You're very, very tanky, heavy armor. Plus, you're just a straight healer, so you're just really tough to take down. And if they spend just a few seconds focusing you, that means they're not focusing Sally here, which means she's ripping them apart. So it works really well for us.
That's kind of the secret to the special sauce of those two, is that they do see the healer. Davius, his main heal is the remembrance, that healing Templar ultimate.
Oh right.
And when you cast that ability in Battleground, it immediately puts a target on your back that says, okay, this guy's healing, this guy's got healing capabilities. And so, like you said, it really does kind of shift people to start focusing Davius. And then just Sally just kind of goes and lines them up as they're hitting me. And it does work out well that way.
I'll just remind what Sally's build is. She's an Orc Stamina Dragon Knight wearing Unleashed Terror, of course. Everyone stop rolling your eyes. Okay, I had to have at least one character wear this set, all right? Everyone else gets to have fun with it. I get to have fun with it too, all right? Unleashed Terror, Bloodspawn, the Maelstrom two-hander, the Master's Dual Wield, Two Pieces Trainee, and the Malakath Band of Brutality. Basically, the meta, as long as you have a healer with you, I would say.
Yeah, just kind of a reminder of we're talking about the builds here. Just a reminder of Davius's build. He wears the 5-piece Shulk exoskeleton, the 2-piece Chokethorn monster set, 3-piece Naga Shaman, 1-piece Trainee, 1-piece Pearls of El Nafay, and that's a build he's rocking.
Yeah, these two go way back. I also want to try. We talked about this last night, I think. I want to try, Sally, with your Magic and Necromancer healer. I think that could be a really, really good pair as well. We haven't had a chance to try it out yet, but I think like all that CC plus the really strong heals and the extra damage that character brings as well, I think that could be another really good combo.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good combo.
So speaking of Magic and Necromancers, I played with my Magic and Necromancer Despair, and along with your Stamina Warden Bearclaw, the Nord, and I don't know, we might be burying the lead not starting with these two because I think these are combo. I would say this is our new favorite combo. Davius and Sally are probably our most effective combo.
Yeah.
But Despair and Bearclaw, I think, are our favorites right now. It's a zany, wacky time. I'm absolutely hearing the yakety sax music in my head the entire time we're playing with these two. It's nuts, man. There's so much happening. We're basically just hauling an army along with us everywhere that we go.
It really is just a caravan of just mess, just running around the map.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, just a quick reminder of Despair, my Magicka Necromancer. She's wearing Ice Furnace, Savara Scales, and Mighty Chudan, a charged Frost Staff on the front bar, and a Resto Staff on the back bar. Last week, I talked about trying out the Skeletal Arcanist and Necrotic Potency. I was trying those two new skills out on my bars. Both extremely good. I'm totally keeping them slotted. Everything's been working really great. My healing numbers have gone down. When I look at the numbers at the end of the match, as expected, my damage numbers have gone up because I have that Skeletal Arcanist in the mix now. And my healing numbers have gone down because I've basically unslotted 2 healing abilities. So that makes perfect sense. But I don't feel like the support is lacking whatsoever. I honestly feel like I'm still providing excellent group support, and I make a big difference on the team.
Yeah, for sure. It's as good as it needs to be, for sure.
So I have that Skeletal Arcanist and the Spirit Mender and Blastbone. So I have 3 pets. Plus you have, what, didn't you say like 8 pets in your Bear Claw build?
They're not all targetable, but yeah, when everything's up and running, he's got 8 minions swarming around him at any given time.
So the bear is targetable. You have the bear, right?
The bear is targetable.
And then I have the Arcanist and Blastbones. I don't think the Spirit Mender is targetable. I'll have to check on that. And then there's just the 2 of us, like our actual characters, you know. Yep. So that's like 5 or 6 bodies, even though there's only 2 people present. You mentioned last night, it's kind of it's kind of sad to admit, but it's kind of true. They're kind of like lazy builds, you know. You can kind of just kick back and cruise with those builds, you know. It's just kind of they kind of play easily.
Yeah, it's a group. It's a group. Everybody putting their heads together. You know, all these minions. Everybody's helping out, doing their part just a little bit. Takes the pressure off you.
Because we're never really focusing any one particular enemy. We're just kind of making sure that everything is staying active. All of our sets and all the timers on our skill bars and everything are just active as much as possible, and everything just kind of takes care of itself. I make sure that the Wall of Frost and the remote totem are always in advantageous locations, but otherwise I'm just kind of keeping those timers going.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of like, we talked about that. Strategy to these builds is very unique in the sense that your main focus, instead of targeting someone or dealing that damage, is just making sure everything is kind of up and running and operating as should be.
Yeah. And man, we can seriously just walk over top of a team, can we not? Like with these 2, it's just like we can just saunter right on up and not even worry about it and just walk straight over top of them. It's hilarious to watch. It really is hilarious.
I mean, one of my favorite things is, everybody will run up on someone in Battlegrounds that you're like, oh, this person's too tanky. They're a tank build, or, they're perma-block or something like that. And so you kind of just move on if you're like, all right, they're not going to die. With this is these 2 together, I have never felt that. Because even when we run up on somebody and we're like, oh, this person's not dying, in the back of my mind, I'm just confident that I'm like, well, just give it about 30 seconds. They'll melt down eventually. Yeah. And usually it does. It's as long as they stand there, eventually it just wears them down, regardless of how tanky they are.
It's the perfect, it's like this traveling circus of horrors. It's exactly how I think of it. And it's I've always thought of Despair as like, I want this character to create this nightmare zone. And then Bearclaw, even though it's not the same Necromancer theme, it really does add to that whole disorienting. Like if you're in this space here, you don't know which way's up. You can't move. You're immobilized. You're getting feared constantly. You're getting damaged from every direction. You don't even know where it's coming from. It's I don't know. Honestly, after a couple of matches, I ended up feeling pretty bad. Like we should play with some characters that maybe feel a little more fair, because I just feel like we're ruining everyone's good time when we're playing with these 2. We're having a great time.
Yeah, we're having a blast. It's too much fun. But yes, I do get that a little bit.
Yeah, it's no fun allowed when we have these 2 going. Now, what was Bearclaw's build again?
Yeah, so I was going to say, just a reminder of Bearclaw's build. He does the 5-piece Cold Harbor's Favorite, 5-piece Unfathomable Darkness, 2-piece monster set Maw of the Infernal, and then he backbars the Black Rose Prison dual wield. And all of that together, he still has the full Animal Companions front bar. So kind of a breakdown of the 8 minions that are up there is that he's got the bear, the netch going, the maw when that summons, and then the all of the birds flying around that swarm him from the unfathomable darkness, and then the little the baby guar honor from Cold Harbor's favorite that kind of randomly pops up, and even with it, even not all of these are targetable, but like you said, and especially when running with Despair, there's just so much going on that even from just a visual perspective, I can't imagine it's easy to deal with it. Even if with all the stuff targetable, but with all of the CC you're throwing down and the slowing, and then that maw, if that's in their face, that thing is so big and can be annoying. And then the bears right there.
Yeah. And I'm using Race Against Time also, which gives you snare immunity and major expedition, and I'm just constantly weaving in and out of all of that, so hardly anyone can land a hit on me at all.
It's with all the CC you're doing, it allows for kind of the bear that I have and the maw almost work like Bear Claw's CC because they're just in the way and they're just they're visual blocking.
God, that maw, that big Daedroth, man. That thing is huge.
It is massive. And then what's even more great, one of the big negatives to the Cold Harbor's favorite, if I had to give it one, is that it's very easy to dodge. You see that pop up, you see that red circle going. But when these two pair together with all the stuff going on, that thing hits so often because there's no way you can single that thing out with all the other stuff going on. And so it's a really strong dot that's getting thrown down. And the
CC's kind of holding him in place to
CC's
make it
holding
hit as well.
him in place. And then, Unfathomable Darkness, that's, I'd say a semi-popular set right now. So those birds are hitting hard. And then, mainly my goal with this build is have all that stuff up and running, like you said. I use the Growing Swarm. That's important to throw on people so that they're getting that minor vulnerability so they can take a little bit more damage. And then, just throw some sub-assaults in there with the Cliff Racer spammable.
It amounts to a lot of damage. It's like, I think you said on the last episode, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. And between
really
these two, it's like 10,000 paper cuts. And really both of these, like you look at their stats and it doesn't really look that impressive. Like Despair barely has 2,000 spell damage, but all this damage is coming from procs, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. This build is probably... I would say this might be the most fun I've had with a build, just because it was kind of off the wall. I didn't even really plan it. It kind of happened spur of the moment because I stole the sets from Bear Claw. And so I was like, all right, well, let's throw this together. I talked about that last week, and it was kind of, all right, let's throw these on there and see how it works. And then after testing it, it was such a pleasant surprise to see how well it worked. And then pairing it with Despair,
well, we have such good cross healing too. Like Despair is a healer, and Stamina Wardens have pretty good healing capability as well. Yep. So like you can kind of work as a pretty good backup. Like if my ultimate isn't quite up yet, then you can probably pop some mushrooms or something to help us out.
Yeah, and I think that's another more fun pairing is like you said with Despair. When you originally made your Magic and Necromancer, you wanted it to be this. The CC, or all of this Necromancer stuff going on, slowing people down, really, bringing the enemies down, and that's exactly what it's become. And you mentioned this. What Bear Claw is right now is when I first made him, he was my very second alt after I made Davius. He was the first character I made after Davius. That was my original plan for him. It's like, all right, I want to be this guy that summons all these animals. And I had tried all these different alterations, and I had just given up on it so long ago because I just couldn't make anything work. And he slowly kind of found his way back. And you had mentioned this week, that this is exactly what I want him to be when he was first made. And it's an awesome feeling to kind of come full circle with him and that build actually be effective and it being, working really well.
Yeah, it is really cool. I remember like when you were first putting Unfathomable Darkness on him, and I was thinking like, I don't know, that set's not so great, but it's been buffed quite a bit.
The buff helps.
there's been a number of other changes. Just kind of makes it all come together now. I swear, there's some dev at ZOS that is very much in alignment with how you like to play builds. It seems like they're constantly like putting things in the game and making changes that very much favor your style of theory crafting.
No complaints from over here. I don't have anybody on the inside. I don't know what's going on, but I have no complaints.
Likely story.
I do have some possible exciting news with Bear Claw. At least that it's
having a baby.
little baby Bear Claw. No, when they first announced the point blank snipe, you said it's just the perfect situation for Bear Claw, and with everything else coming together for him, I actually spent part of this week kind of looking into well, is there a way to make this make sense?
As a reminder, Bear Claw is a heavy armor bow brawler. Right?
Bow brawler in your face, and so when that bow came out, your immediate reaction was like, I know that you probably won't use it, but it's just the most Bear Claw bow ever.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
So there is a possibility. I haven't done anything yet, but there is a possibility, and I've been kind of mulling it over, that Unfathomable Darkness is back barrable because all the birds come out at once, and it's they come out for 12 seconds.
Oh.
So if I can back bar Unfathomable Darkness and then replace the Black Rose Prison dual wield, I could find a way to make his front bar bow the point blank snipe, and maybe swap out the Cliff Racer spammable and actually have snipe as
maybe just try it out for funsies, even if you know you're not going to keep it. I would love to just see it in action,
just to see how it works. I think I already have the Vatishram bow, so I think it's definitely something I might work on in this coming week, just to make Bear Claw even more ridiculous.
You should do that the same time because I'm thinking of doing a ridiculous thing with Despair as well that I don't think would be permanent, but I do want to just try it just to see. So Despair actually began as a PvE build where I just use her to farm dungeons. I queue as a tank, and then I have all this AoE damage, and it works really well. I was thinking of basically just using the PvE setup in PvP, which is instead of the Mighty Chudan monster set, I use Grothdar. So the other two stats stay the same, still using Ice Furnace, still using Savara Scales, but then add Grothdar, and then I would actually use the armor buff, but I would use the Beckoning armor morph. That's the one where when ranged enemies directly attack me, it pulls them in, which... Normally, I'm basically philosophically opposed to chain pull in abilities. I hate them so much, but this build is already so trolly. I don't know. Why not just go full troll?
I mean, if you're gonna have a build that pulls people in, I mean, this is the one.
Yeah, because I have all that CC, and one thing I don't like about using pull in abilities for myself is it gives the enemy CC immunity, and good players recognize that fact and they know how to take advantage of that. You pull them in, then they know, I can't be stunned for the next 5 seconds, so I'm just going to go ham. And you may have actually put yourself in a bad situation by pulling them in. But with Despair here, she'll have that wall of frost with a charged ice staff, so they're almost certainly going to get immobilized as soon as they get pulled in, because they're not immune to immobilizations. That's a soft CC. It's on a different cooldown. So it could be perfect to pull them into this AoE disaster zone. They get stuck long enough to actually take some damage, and I don't know, it could work pretty well, but could also get me a lot of hate whispers, so I don't know.
I'm actually a little surprised we haven't gotten more hate whispers with this setup, but
honestly,
not complaining about not getting hate whispers, but
the only hate whispers I've gotten this patch is when I play on Bad Sally, the build I was talking about at the beginning, honestly. And it's happened 2 times that I can think of right now. I'm pretty sure that's the only character that has gotten any, which I understand that it's a very frustrating build to deal with. It really is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And very low effort, high damage. I get it. I complain about the exact same kind of builds.
Go back to Despair and Bear Claw. I don't know about you, but this is my most fun combo we have right now with my
Agreed.
Most fun character to play with right now. This is just I enjoy every time we're queuing up, and this is the one that anytime we do Battlegrounds or plan to do Battlegrounds for a night, it's like, all right, we have to do this one. We'll do a couple others, but this one is always going to be in the lineup right now.
Totally. And they work well for any BG mode too. Like
it's true. We learned that as well.
Like we did really, like, I know we complain a lot about Capture the Relic, but we learned that these two are pretty amazing at Capture the Relic, because we literally just kind of walk right up and take it, like it's just kind of that easy.
Oh man.
It's silly. It's silliness.
And even, like you said, we can walk up right and take it. Or if we're defending, there's been so many
no
times
way they're getting our relic.
Yeah, there's so many times that a character will come up and they'll be like, it looks, with all the stuff lying around, it looks like, what, is that a full team over there? Like, I'm just going to move on.
Yeah, forget that.
Pretty great.
So those are the main two, I think. Sally and Davius, and then Despair and Bear Claw, I think, are kind of the ones we're really kind of fixated on right now, which I think is a really good kind of combo for us too. Yeah. I think when we really start, when we start getting our real squad together, someday, whatever this happens,
someday, we're just having too much fun.
We get our regular four person squad where we're really like going hard and pushing for leaderboards. I want to do that sometime soon, and I think Davius and Sally might be in there. Seems like there's a good chance that could be the case. We also did a little bit of dual StamSorc, dual Torque Sorc action last night.
The dual Torque Sorc.
Always a good time. I don't think there's not a lot to say there. Our builds, your build has changed a bit, but I think you're trying to save that for later, right?
We'll save the build details. I'm still working out some kinks, but we'll save those for next week. But
yeah,
I did want to talk about, because I noticed this. I think we only did one Battleground.
I think we only did one last night. Yeah.
Yeah. But in that Battleground, I was thinking this as we were streaking through opponents. It was the one with all the portals. I can never remember the name of it, but it's
Eld Angvar.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. And we were in the part that it's got like all these little stone pillars over to it, and we're streaking in and out through these things and zigging and zagging, and I just couldn't help but think how enemies are just seeing these two Sorcs. Like, it must be like something of like nightmares to see these two guys. We were just zipping in and out, and then we'd kind of disappear behind the pillars. And we both, we're both dual wield, so we'd streak them, and then you'd both see us kind of spin to rent. There's just so much damage with the spins, and then streak back out.
That was really the perfect map, and that was actually a death match, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was one of the few. I think we got 2 death matches last night. It must have been like our lucky night.
we were doing good last night.
But I was worried because we were on 2 damage characters, and I was like, oh man, we're not going to have a healer, and this is the pre-made queue. This is going to be tough. But that was actually the perfect map, because we could just kind of divide and conquer like that. It was really fun.
If they tried to focus one of us, they could kind of get one of us down, and then the other one kind of streak through, and then both just start going, and then we'd streak out. That was kind of the feeling where it's like, good Lord, it must be so annoying trying to get hold of one of these characters, and then there's 2 of them streaking around.
Yeah, I also want to say, we said we weren't going to talk a lot about StamSorc, but here we are. It always happens. You bring up StamSorc. I do want to say, though, StamSorcs, they are the hotness right now, and what most StamSorcs that you see right now, they're wearing Unleash Terror and Venomous Smite. Neither one of us are wearing either of those sets that are StamSorcs, all right? I think our StamSorcs are very, fair builds, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
It's just stats. We just have a lot of damage. That's
stats, a lot of damage, no proc sets. Yeah. They're kind of old school StamSorcs, if you will.
Totally.
Team Torque Sorc.
Yeah. So anyway, dual StamSorcs, always a good time. We're going to have to do that more often, I think. It's just, it's silly that it took us this long to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Besides that, I've actually been spending quite a bit of time on my PvP main, my Stamina Templar, old Betsy. Really, I don't know even what I want to say about her other than still awesome, still amazing. By far my favorite character to play with, no question. As much fun as I'm talking about Despair and Sally and these others, they're awesome, and the StamSorc, awesome. But man, I log in with Betsy and it's just total perfection. And she doesn't even necessarily get the best results of anyone. I think, honestly, my StamSorc as a solo character gets better results overall. But I don't know. It's just something about the way she plays and the finesse, the style. I don't know. There's something about it. It's just perfect.
This week was kind of the final, old Betsy and Tane, your StamSorc. They were kind of running neck and neck there for a while. I was getting a little worried on, I don't know who his favorite is. Everybody can calm down. You don't have to be on the edge of your seats anymore. Betsy has prevailed. The truth came out. always. Old Betsy's still old Betsy.
And her build has been the same for a while now. I've hardly changed anything about it for a few patches now. It's Bone Pirate, Deadly Strikes, the Master Bow. So Deadly Strikes is only complete on the front bar with a maul, a two-handed maul. One Piece Molag Kenna and Ring of the Wild Hunt. She's an orc. She's super duper fast and has just a ton of damage. I think she has in the ballpark of 5,000 weapon damage on her stat sheet, and that doesn't even reflect the Master Bow or the Deadly Strikes. So it's a lot of damage.
Yeah, and with the extended ritual and the speed, she really, very self-sustainable, can take care of herself. She really doesn't need support really a whole lot.
My favorite character to take into the solo queue for sure, because she's very self-sufficient. Doesn't matter what kind of team she ends up on, she's going to be able to find her place in that team and do her thing. And if she has to just kind of go solo and do that too, that's fine.
Yep.
All right, so that's all we've been up to this week. As far as news goes, again, not a lot going on this week. The community manager, Gina Bruno, she did make a forum post just saying that we are getting an incremental patch next week, December 7th for PC, December 9th for consoles. They're going to be fixing a number of crashes, refunding some missing skill points. There you go, Davius, although you probably don't even care by this point.
Yeah, it's long gone. It doesn't matter anymore. But hey, I'll take it. And
then they say, quote, a few additional fixes. So we'll see what's going on there. And then Gina also reminded us in this same post, this was not on my radar, so I'm glad she mentioned it. The Undaunted event starts this Thursday, December 3rd. So that'll be, a good opportunity to get some new style motifs. And if you have some event tickets you've been sitting on, the Impresario is going to be back, so you can see what's going on there. And, so just don't sleep on the Undaunted event. It's like the day after tomorrow. Or if you're listening to this, it's probably today,
It's right now. The only thing I would point out on this is that obviously it's good to see some fixes scheduled and some patch things that I think, and I think you'd agree with me on this, but the biggest issues that I'm running into right now is those crashes. Ooh, those are a bummer. And there's been a little bit of, I'm happy to use this word in here, a little bit of wonky stuff going on with the BGQ the past couple of days for us. So I hope that gets fixed too.
Yeah, totally. We'll see. I'm still having fun, but man, those times when I get a crash mid battleground, I'm not having fun in those moments, to tell you that. So yeah, I hope we have less of that.
The one that stands out in my mind is we were on a Despair Bear Claw. It was a super high MMR match. And it was I think it was a death match too. Yeah. And it was really kind of our first, all right, this is going to be the first real test. We know all the people in this match. It's high MMR. Yeah. Let's see what these two can do. And
it was going well. We were hanging in there. We were having to fight for it and struggle for it, but it was working. And
then the crash hits. I immediately crashed out of the game.
And you're right. That was the first. You're totally right. That was the first real match where we could feel good about whatever the results, because we knew these are good players. We know these people. Ah, man, such a shame. We'll have other matches like that though.
For sure.
Okay, so let's move on and talk about emails. Guess what? We do have an email this week.
I don't believe you. I'm waiting for you to say not.
It's for real this time. Best episode ever. This is an email from Matt. Matt says, "What's up, guys? I joined the Goons a while back, and I enjoy the weekly dose of Scroll Talk. I'd love to hear your opinions on these build questions." So we'll just go through these questions one at a time here. He has 3 or 4 questions here. So number 1, the Frost Mage Dilemma. He says, I have one, even though I know it's not optimized, and there are a handful of Frost-related sets. For example, Icy Conjurer, Winterborn, Isgrimor, Winter's Respite. How would you build a Frost Mage? Do you go MagCro or MagDen? Davis, what do you think?
My first initial thought on this is I lean towards MagDen. If we're really being true to this kind of Frost Mage idea, I just think that a Magica Warden really kind of fits that bill better than a Magica Necromancer.
They're the only class that actually has an entire skill line dedicated to a Frost theme.
Yeah, if you're gonna tell me Frost Mage, then I'm thinking Permafrost and Northern Storm have to be at the center of it. That's just my first initial thoughts on that. You gotta. That's what I would be building around. That's kind of what I would focus on.
I agree. I mean, Warden is obviously the closest fit, just because Necromancer, as far as I know, they just have that graveyard ability that deals frost damage. It doesn't even really look like frost to me, but that's it. I don't think they have any other source of frost damage. I don't really associate Frost Mage with a Necromancer.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. With a MagCro, I really think more of like kind of your despair. Like there's a lot of bones. There's a lot of this decay, CC. I don't really think Frost Mage, so to speak.
Now, let's talk about these sets that you name off here. So, Icy Conjurer, Winterborn, Isgrimor, Winter's Respite. I'm just going to kind of go through these here. Winter's Respite, I think that one just gets disqualified on a technicality because it doesn't actually... I know it looks like Frost, but it doesn't do any Frost-like things, right? It's a heal. It's a heal over time. So if we're making a Frost Mage... I want these effects to actually do something frost related, like slow people down or immobilize them, stuff like that.
You have some high standards.
Yep. We're making a frost mage, not a frost healer, right? But I guess if you wanted to make a healer, like a frost themed healer, then that's an obvious choice for sure.
Yeah.
I also think Isgrimor's Birthright goes right out the window, and I'll tell you why.
That's tough for me to hear.
Well,
I hold some anger towards that set anyways, because Isgrimor, lore-wise, one of the coolest Nords ever, and he got stuck with this set, which just...
You got a bad set.
I don't know what happened.
So it gives you, like 400 spell damage to your frost damage abilities. The thing is, it's going to be really difficult to put together an actual viable build that only deals frost damage. You're going to at least need another ability or two that deals some other kind of damage, right? Your Warden is going to have Sub-Assault. Your Necromancer is going to have Blast Bones. Those don't deal frost damage. And so if you're using Isgrimor, your hardest hitting abilities, the abilities that make for the biggest part of your DPS, just talking from like a PvE standpoint, it's not going to be benefiting from it at all. You'd be doing more overall DPS if you were to use Julianos or Mother's Sorrow, just some standard damage set. And Isgrimor doesn't give you any kind of visual effect that makes you look like a Frost Mage or anything like that. So if you decide to use Julianos instead, you get more overall DPS, and you're not really losing out on that Frost Mage theme because Isgrimor isn't giving you that anyway. So nothing good about Isgrimor. Don't use it.
The set, not the person.
Yeah. Winterborn, very good set. That's the one you deal frost damage, and it summons a pillar out of the ground that does a pretty decent amount of AoE damage, and it also snares people while they're standing in it. It's a pretty good proc set. I've seen some pretty effective PvP builds use that for sure. So Winterborn, I think, yeah, for sure. That's a great one to use. And then Icy Conjurer, I know we just got done saying that, I don't really associate Magic and Necromancer with Frost Mage, but if you did want to make a Frost Necromancer, this is the set right here. It summons an Ice Wraith that deals frost damage. It deals a ton of damage too, by the way. So that would be a perfect choice, I think, for a Necromancer Frost Mage if that is what you wanted to do. But otherwise, I know it deals frost damage, but it doesn't really give me the sense of a Frost Mage. If I were to see that, Frost isn't really the first thing I think of. I'm thinking of a Necromancer, actually.
Yeah.
So one set I want to bring up here, or I have a couple of sets I want to bring up here, but the main one is Elemental Succession. If you're looking at Isgrimor and thinking, man, I wish it was just a little bit better, take a look at Elemental Succession. So it's a light armor Magicka set. The 5-piece, whenever you deal Flame Shock or Frost damage, you gain 492 spell damage for that element for 4 seconds. And that can happen every 4 seconds, and you can have all 3 of those elements active at once. So it gives you more damage than Isgrimor does. It also does have a visual effect. Whenever it procs and you get that bonus to that elemental effect, you see a visual effect on your character, which is pretty cool. What's cool about this set, you don't have to use all 3 elements. It's like equally effective if you use 1, 2, or all 3 elements. So that you're not missing out on any damage if you just stick to Frost and Frost only. So that's really, really nice. And your other abilities benefit from it, right? Like your Blast Bones deals flame damage. It's going to get that 492 spell damage from Elemental Succession.
Yep. It's nice.
So that's, I think, like Elemental Succession and Winterborn would be like a pretty good start there. Maybe put the Iceheart monster set on there, even though it kind of sucks now, but it's still usable, you know.
I actually, now that you mentioned, I would actually agree with that. Maybe the Elemental Succession and Winterborn. I would probably throw maybe like the Dragonstar Arena staff, the Destruction staff, maybe to get.
The Master Staff, just for a little extra damage, the Master Frost Staff.
Maybe do that for a little extra damage, so that, and then just kind of stack, like like as you kind of mentioned, stack all that damage up, pop your Northern Storm or your Permafrost. And
I bet Elemental Succession and Winterborn, I bet they're both backbarable. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you could really make something happen there. So there you go. We just theory crafted a Frost Mage.
We're making Frost Mages this week. Here it is.
Yeah, although Iceheart's not amazing, but that's like the only ice-themed monster set. I think in PvE, it's not the worst set. It's useful. If you're making a PvP build, don't do Iceheart. Just do anything else.
Yeah, I think that's why I lean more towards that staff, is that there's not really a Frost monster set, so that gives you kind of a prime opportunity to find one of those arena weapons to
do Malakath instead of a monster set. That would be really good.
Yeah, Malakath always works.
Yeah. Especially to juice up that Winterborn proc. That would work. That would work really well. Okay, that's question number 1. Question number 2, Matt says, I read an interesting blog one time about a Sorc tank. I love off-meta builds, Jolting Arms, Thunderbug. I'd love to hear what 2 vet players have to say about the meme Shock Tank. So I was thinking about this question earlier today, and it's a weird one. Here's how I think about these kinds of builds. If I'm making a Sorc tank, I'm thinking about, okay, this build has to have some kind of value, right? Other than just being for funsies, that's valid, but you also it has to be good at something, right?
Mm-hmm. You got to accomplish something.
Yeah, exactly. So we're already choosing to go off meta, which is great. That's totally awesome. But you have to accept the fact that you're not going to be bringing to the table all the things that a meta tank will be bringing to the table. So what you have to do is figure out what is it that I am bringing to the table, and then really focus on that and just be better at that than anyone else, right? So if I'm making a Sorc tank and I'm trying to think of what is it that I can bring to the table, like a shock tank, that what is it that I can bring to the table that a regular tank doesn't? I think it's probably just more damage for the group, more AoE damage for the group. It's probably going to be the main thing. I think I would probably make like basically a MagSorc that's pretty tanky and do like a lightning staff on the back bar and a sword and shield on the front bar. The Thunderbug set, it seems all right. When you take physical damage, you deal almost 5,000 shock damage in a 5-meter radius around you with a 3-second cooldown. I think that could work actually pretty well. Jolting Arms, I'm not sure about that one though. When you block an attack, you charge your arms, increasing your physical resistance by 4620 for 6 seconds, and then your next bash attack will deal an extra 3513 damage. I don't love that because it's really mostly just like a selfish, like make me tankier kind of set. The extra damage you get from your bash is negligible, I would say. and it's pretty easy to be tanky, pretty easy to be survivable in PvE. Like I'm thinking of a PvE tank. I guess that's something I should say right off the bat. I'm not thinking of PvP at all for this build. I wouldn't want to do anything like that for PvP.
Any just straight up tank build in PvP is it's gonna be very difficult to make that effective or worthwhile in PvP. I mean, it can be done, but kind of like you said, you have to really, what are you doing for the team? And if you're just a straight tank, you gotta have something else you're offering.
This is a slight detour, but there's a period in time. I need to go back and find like what day it was, because there's like a cutoff at point where we used to say like straight tanks are not useful in PvP, and we would just make like a straight statement like that. But then there was this one time we saw this Nightblade tank in a battleground one time that was super duper effective. We've never seen anything like it before or since. That dude was body blocking everything from our entire team. Somehow he was just always at the right place at the right time to take all of our damage, and he could not die. This guy could not die.
He was unkillable. And he was absorbing so many blows. He had the skeleton polymorph, which somehow made it worse. He was just spam jumping. He was always jumping up and down, and just I don't know. He just had a great situational awareness. Like he would see one of his teammates getting focused, and he would just interject himself right in the middle of that conflict, and like you just couldn't get around him. It was wild. That one person changed the whole stat.
Yeah. Unless you're that guy, I would say don't take a tank into PvP. It's limited usefulness. But yeah, for PvE, it could be really great. I would think of it as being my dungeon farming build. I think like if I'm putting a character together and I'm trying to farm a dungeon, I would use this build so that I can queue as a tank, get those nice fast queue times, and then I have some extra damage to help those dungeon runs go nice and smooth, even if I have poor DPS.
My thoughts on this initially, I am right there with you. I love off-meta builds. I think we both have a love for those. So anytime we're off meta, I'm all for it. Especially if we can make it effective. The first thing, I had very similar thoughts to you. The Thunderbug seems to work well. The Jolting Arms kind of, that's, if I had to make some changes, that'd probably be the one that I would change. The set that kind of came to my mind, if we're going off meta and going with this unique style tank, I had kind of the same thoughts. If you're going to be a Sorc tank, you're probably going to want to have some AoE damage or something, something where you're melting mobs quicker than a regular tank would be. And the set that came to my mind is that this would be, I think, a great build to throw that Radiant Bastion on. That's that new set that the 5-piece is that you actually, all the damage you take, you deal it back. 10% of the damage you take goes back to the attacker.
Okay.
And I think that with this build could make a lot of sense. You've got a lot of AoE going on, and if all these mobs and bosses are hitting you, you're taking all this damage and just dealing it right back. And it kind of just goes along with kind of that AoE. I haven't tested that set, so maybe the damage wouldn't be enough. And I know it has like a damage cap. But, if we're way off meta, we're already out there. That's the one that popped in my mind.
The one that popped in my head is Overwhelming Surge, which is a light armor set that I use on a MagDK. But you could use it on a tank. You could run jewelry and weapons, and then say use Thunderbug on the body, so you could still be a heavy armor build. And Overwhelming Surge, it deals AoE shock damage. And it restores, I think, 15% of the damage it does. It restores as magicka to you. And so that could be perfect, actually. As a Sorc, you could use, say, Dark Exchange. And as you're getting that magicka return, you can exchange that magicka for stamina to, restore your stamina pool for blocking and breaking free and all that kind of stuff. That could actually synergize really well. It has that shock theme. That might be a really good setup right there.
There it is. That would work really well.
So there you go. Overwhelming Surge on the jewelry and weapons. Thunderbug on the body. I don't know.
We have our tank. We have a Frost Mage for DPS. We're putting this thing together. This is our group.
Okay, so Matt's third question. What's another off-meta build you've been tempted to build recently? Davis, I'm going to let you have this one because I don't really have any great answers right now. So take it away.
So first of all, I feel like I have to admit, if anybody could see my in-game bank, I am the equivalent of an ESO hoarder. I I hold on to items for this very thing that I think, oh, maybe this would be a cool build. I know that I'm not going to actually put it together, but I can't quite bring myself to get rid of it. It's a true problem I have. So there's a whole bunch of things I could think kind of go with this question, but the ones that are probably to the forefront and the most on the front of my mind, one that I've mentioned in the past is this ultimate support build. I still would love to put this together just to test to see if it would work. I don't have it all worked out. It's not a full complete build, but the idea is that it's an ultimate generating build, but not only does it generate ultimate for itself, it would also generate ultimate for the entire team. That would be its actual support, probably on a support healing character, but
it's a cool idea.
Yeah, I would really like, the idea of it is the five-piece Arcasis Genius, which is that one whenever you drink a potion or use a potion, you and 3 of your teammates get 44 ultimate. It's got a 30-second cooldown. And then the other 5-piece would be this Kraglin's Howl, and that's whenever an enemy that you damage dies. It gives a synergy, and whenever a teammate uses that synergy, that teammate and you get 12 ultimate, and that has a 20-second cooldown. So some long cooldowns there, so I don't know if it would work, but that's one build that has been on the front of my mind for a while now. I'd love to put that together someday just to see, because if that could effectively work and give this team where they're just ult dumping constantly, I just think that would be a really cool support build idea.
That could be cool. Yeah, the last kind of real out there build I was experimenting with, I think was kind of a failure, was my Sorc trying to use the Ring of the Pale Order to fuel his heals to the team. Mm-hmm. Like he was using that along with Redistributor. So the idea was he would do damage, and that damage would heal himself. And then when he overheals himself with that, it would proc Redistributor to heal his teammates. And then he was also wearing Spell Power Cure, so that would proc Spell Power Cure on them as well. Neat idea, and it mechanically did work, but it just the effectiveness was not very good, I didn't think. So
just not quite strong enough.
Yeah, it just wasn't very strong.
I have the fear that would be my ultimate build set.
Yeah.
It would theoretically work, but it wouldn't quite generate enough ultimate to work, because those cooldowns are a little bit long.
I bet if you had some DKs in the group, though, they wouldn't mind at all.
They would love to be in the teammate with that person.
Matt's last question, he says, by the way, do you both have vampires? I know it's deplorably bad in BGs, but have you considered leveling one just to experiment with the playstyle? Well, Davius, I know you considered it at one time, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Built an entire character for it. That was when pre-Greymore. When they first announced Greymore wasn't out yet, it was kind of announced as this.
You're like, oh boy, these vampire changes are coming. I can't wait. I'm going to make a character just for it.
I was so hyped for it. It was all about the vampires. This was going to be a vampire expansion. I actually, before the set even came out, I went and bought a full set of the Vampire Lord set. Just because I don't even remember what it used to do. But it was a very vampire focused set, and so in my mind I said, all right,
surely they're going to buff this to the sky.
Something's going to happen to this set, and I'm going to have my set ready. I'm going to build this vampire. It's going to be awesome. Bought the set. They made changes, built the character, and just flat. That was the best way I could explain that character, and I think you really explained it maybe the best. It kind of enlightened me to what had happened, is that with these changes, and especially with the Vampire Lord set, it kind of forces this tunnel vision for the vampire build. Like if you really want to have a true vampire build, you kind of have to go all in on the vampire build. You're going all in on the cost reduction for the vampire abilities. And then at the same time, I did this, and there's just no damage there. There's tankiness there, but even the tankiness is kind of taken away a little bit because your abilities are costing your health. And so it's not really quite as tanky as I thought it would be. The Vampire Ultimate is cool, but to me, it and this is just my personal opinion, it just was kind of a lesser Bone Goliath. You know, if you were going to go that style, and I built for my vampire, I built it as a necromancer. It just made more sense to go with Bone Goliath than it did the vampire ult unless I was this specific vampire build. So,
you know, I'm super bummed and disappointed with how Vampire has turned out. It went from seriously, literally every one of my Magicka characters except one, my Mag Warden. They were all vampires, and now none of them are. And I even was holding out my Mag Blade. I was like, all right, just for RP purposes, I want at least him to be a vampire. But as time went on, it just became more and more difficult to even justify keeping it on him. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the answer for me right now is I'm not really considering having a vampire right now. Now, I will say,
I don't
though,
have one and don't consider to have one for the future.
Yeah. I will say, though, that not everyone feels that way. And especially right now, I am seeing some vampires in Battlegrounds. I mean, look around. In most BGs, you'll see at least a couple of people just spamming Mistform and just basically hanging out in Mistform the entire time. So I think Mistform alone is a very strong draw to vampirism. A lot of people want to be a vampire just so they can use that ability and nothing else. And it's very, very strong ability. But I think it is more viable now simply because we've gotten some massive sustain buffs this patch, and that I think quite a bit softens the blow of having those sustained debuffs that you get from being a vampire. So for that reason, I think we're seeing more vampires right now. I also see quite a few people utilizing that invisibility from sprinting. I've seen a lot of non-Nightblades popping in and out of stealth like that. So it's out there. It's definitely out there, and some people are finding some good utility with it. It's not for me. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to say it. It's not for me either. I had high hopes for it and was excited for it. Just not for me with how it turned out.
Yeah. So there you go with that. In closing, Matt says, "Keep up the solid pod, boys." Not sure what a pod boy is, but thanks, Matt.
We'll look into that.
We'll look into the pod boys. So Matt mentioned having recently joined the Goons. He's referring to our guild, Stoon's Goons. Well, I guess actually, let me back up. Matt emailed us at our email address, scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to email us, you can email us at scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. That's scrollin with an I-N, no G. Send us a joke, ask us a question, ask us to dive deeper into something we've talked about before. Really, whatever you like, as long as you're friendly. Now, about Stoon's Goons. It's our guild.
You just wanted to say Stoons more. I get it.
I just want to say Stoons again. Stoons.
Stoons.
It's our guild on PCNA. We're primarily a social guild with a bit of a PvP focus. We're pretty much never not in Discord talking about builds and swapping memes and just being goofy. We have a goon night, what we call a goon night, once or twice a week, where we all just get together, whoever's available, and we do some sort of PvP related activity. And we just kind of hang out and have a good time. It's very chill, very non-toxic. So if you're interested, send us an email, scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up in-game. I'm at CatSparrowHawk. Davius is at StarJumper.
One last thing. I just want to give a shout out to Matt. Just want to express, we have a lot of fun when people send us emails and ask us these kind of questions. We always talk about how much we love theory crafting and things like that. So I got to give a shout out to Matt. That's a lot of fun with those questions.
Oh yeah, it's exactly our kind of email too. Just ask us to talk about builds. Oh, you'll get us going. You want to get us talking? Ask us about builds. And
that's how you do it right there.
Yeah, you want a 3-hour podcast? That's how you get a 3-hour podcast. All right, I think that's going to do it. We're going to get out of here. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time. Snap. 3, 2, 1.
Boom.
Boom, shaka, malaka.
Nice.
We're going to add that on. Eventually, it's just going to be like a 10-minute long.
I was just
like,
about to
ritual.
say that. What if that ritual just turns into like 20 minutes long of just us gibberish talking back and forth?
It'll
Just
be 3,
boom.
2, 1, snap, boom, shakamalakadonkabonk.
Just 10 minutes of us just monotone saying all of this gibberish. And then we're like, okay. Yep, now we're ready to go.
I think we're ready to
get it started.
We have OCD for sure. Welcome to the OCD podcast.